welcome back to another fabulous episode of Food with FLO, and today we're going to be making baked butternut with mince child. So these are basically just all the ingredients you're going to need, not including the mince and all the spices. So first you're going to get a big pot. I did not use a big enough pot, but you need a big pot and some boiling water. Preferably boil the butternut for a good hour or so. This is just me struggling to figure out how to put this butternut in the pot. The pots were not doing the things that they needed to do. Eventually I settled by just adding more water into the pot, filling it up all the way, which I actually don't recommend because it ended up making a lot of mess. But yeah, and now I'm just gonna work on my mince. So we first get some coconut oil into our pan. Just let that melt nicely, and in the meantime prepare your peppers, your onions, whatever it is. I feel like everybody has their own method for making mince, so make the pasta be done and start preparing the stuff that you use for your mince. But yeah, I'm just gonna add some onions, and then we're heavy on the garlic in this house, honey. Like we are garlic lovers. Whatever the opposite of a vampire is, because vampires don't like garlic. But yes, and then you just fry that up, let the onions brown nicely, and then add your peppers when you feel like, okay, this is good, this is nice, everything is ready for me. And then you're just gonna mix, stir, let everything brown, fry, caramelize, that's the word. And then once you're happy with like the texture consistency, you start adding your spices. I did want my mince to be a little bit on the hot side, so I added quite a bit of chili flakes. As you can see, I was very, very heavy-handed, and then some 6 for allspice, and then some barbecue chicken. I know we're not cooking chicken, but honestly, spice flavor is flavor. And then you mix that up, let it fry, cook down your spices. Like, it's very important to make sure that your spices have been properly cooked down before you start adding any meats with whatever it is you're cooking. Just like make sure that the kitchen smells of aromatic whatever spices you're using. And then once you're satisfied with the cook of the peppers and onions and spices, this is when you're gonna add your mince in. I honestly don't spice my mince because I feel like I've already added what needs to be added to the peppers. So I just add my mince in and then let it cook, break it down into pieces or like chunks, whatever it's called. And then I just let that cook for, I feel like, I don't know, until it's brown. And then once it's brown, I add some salt and some Worcestershire, Worcester sauce for the flavors. I actually don't really know what Worcester sauces do, but I do know that it's important to add it in pretty much all red meats. Yes. And then some salt, and then obviously once you've tasted it, once it's cooked down, you add a little bit more of whatever it is you feel like it needs. I did at some point add tomato, which I did not film, but yeah, this is my mince coming together. Add some tomato if you like some tomato, or some tomato paste. I also added half a cube of beef stock, half a cube of beef stock when I felt like the mince was pretty much almost cooked, just so that it can reduce and so it can have a little bit of like sauce, not too heavy though. Then by this time my butternut was pretty much done, so I cut it in half, not the cleanest cut, and then I cleaned it up like that. Boom. It wasn't as cooked as I wanted it to be, so I did add it back into the oven for like 20 minutes just to soften it. And then here I'm just adding some cuts, some slits for aesthetics, but also so that I'm gonna add like a butter and herb spice, just so that the butternut can get some flavor. As you can see there, just some oregano and then some mixed herbs with a little bit of butter, and then we're just gonna put that on there so that the lower part of the butternut does get some flavor, does get some salt. you can also add, like, if you prefer your butternut with cinnamon or sugar, salt, whatever it is, like, to each their own. But because of the flavor of my mince, I didn't want to do too much with my butternut. And then I'm gonna fill, the holes of the butternut with mince, and then add it to the oven for a good, like, I don't know, 10 minutes, just so that it can cook and the flavors can infuse nicely. So this is just me adding the spices. And then while all of this is in the oven, I'm going to start preparing to cook my spinach. So half an onion and some mushrooms, if you like mushrooms in your spinach. At some points, my camera did cut, so I didn't get a lot of spinach content, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, it's creamy spinach. It's not that deep. I did boil it before adding it to the sauce, the white sauce that I made. So now this is just a butternut with the mince in. You can add some cheese on top if you like, if you want to do that. But I didn't do that because I was already going to have, like, my white sauce with my spinach. So I didn't want it to be too much of a heavy meal. So yeah, this is just me adding my mushrooms and onions to a pan, browning them, cooking them. I did end up getting distracted and left them on the stove for a little bit too long, and they ended up being quarter to being burnt, as you can see. Almost, like, I think 2 more minutes and they would have been burnt. Now I'm just adding some butter so that when I start to add my ingredients, maizena for the sauce, it can have some flavor. I only use a little bit of salt and a little bit of aromat. I don't like to do too much with my creamy spinach. And then so some maizena, some cream, and then you just whisk that up. Make sure you get rid of all the lumps. Make sure it's like a proper consistency. And then once you're happy with the consistency, you add in the rest of your cream. Obviously, this is also depending on, like, how much spinach you're cooking. And then, as you can see, I was quite happy with this, but it was a little bit too thick, so I did end up adding some milk just to, like, loosen up the consistency of the sauce, because it was quite thick for my liking. And then once I was happy with the consistency, I did add my spinach into the sauce, which I don't know what was going on with my camera, honey, but it cut. But yeah, I was very happy with the consistency of my sauce, and then I just added my spinach, and it came out really well. After adding my spinach to the sauce, I just let it cook maybe for about 5 to 7 minutes. Like I said, I did boil it prior, so it was pretty as cooked as it could be. And then obviously you just add salt and pepper to taste, or whatever, flavor profile you're looking for. But I wasn't looking for anything heavy because I feel like the mince was already doing the most, and I knew what I was going for. But this is my spinach, all beautiful and creamy. And now it's time to plate, honey. Plates with parsley for the aesthetics. So first I'm just gonna make like a bed of mince for the butternut to go on top of, just so that, if you're done eating the mince that's in the pocket hole thingies, there is some for you to dip into with the rest of the butternut. So that's just like a bit of mince, and then I'm gonna add the butternut from the oven on top, and then the spinach right next to that, and we're done. Would have been amazing to have a glass of wine, but it's a Tuesday, so obviously not. This is honestly one of my favorite, I want to say, bougie lazy meals that I make, especially when I'm tired of starch, because I feel like sometimes we eat rice, spaghetti, mashed potatoes all the time. But yeah, this is how it came out. It tasted scrumdiddly yum dum. Thank you for watching.